born of a surrogate hooker. And that flies because those words aren't the trigger words.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't know
Yeah.
what that means.
Right. But I just said something worse than calling you a bitch. I mean, you know, if I say that, you know, you orally collect sperm samples from the pachyderms at the zoo, then you know, Facebook is happy with that.
Right.
But if I say you suck donkey dick, oh, that's terrible. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just all in how you put it. That's all. You got to put a little thought behind your insulting, and you'll do fine, young Padawan.
Yeah, you just have to get more inventive.
Yeah.
Something should a high velocity object should have been employed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's all kinds of. You can't say certain words. Well, like on YouTube, you know, there's this independent UK artist who you know, he's really got some original kind of stuff, but then he's got some other stuff that, you know, might not be in a genre you like. But he released a song called Suicide, and it, you know, the algorithm churned and restricted the suggestion of that song. He turned around, and that song was trying to tell people that were thinking about that to reach out, get help, right? But no, couldn't do that. But then his next track was called Murderer, where he literally in the video goes and fucking chloroforms the dude and shoves him in the trunk. And that thing got put on Spotify, Apple TV picked up that fucking track. You know, so I'm like, God, man, you really, if you got mental problems, seek help. That's a message that they're gonna fucking stifle and restrict. But chloroform a motherfucker in the name of art, shove him in a trunk. That's fine,
Right.
No problem. Go ahead. You know what? We might get you a Netflix fucking show based on that. And I'm like, wow, the way that the algorithm is not thought. There's some logic holes.
Well, the thing that gets me is that, so before the pandemic, there were actually human beings that was their full-time job, and I mean it was like slave labor that you would usually account to, you know, like a tech support call center. And hey, I know all about that because I fucking work for those guys. But anyways, so they actually had people, and that was their job. And so these people would look at the context of the reply, and because they were humans, they could say, okay, this guy, it's just a form of speech. It's not something to be taken seriously. Or they could look at some of these other guys, you know, like the asshole that just got shot and killed.
Right.
You know, that guy.
Well, yeah.
You know, they could look at it and be like, okay,
yeah.
well, you know, this guy's fucking serious. And so
yeah, that's crazy.
So but then the pandemic happened. And so because of that, and their reasoning behind this, I find highly suspect. So the pandemic happened, and everybody went to work from home.
Yeah.
But Facebook specifically, and I think for a while, I think Twitter did it as well. But at least Twitter rectified that, or rather, they got sold. But Facebook, they instead said, well, we can't have these people all working from home for some fucking reason. So we've instituted they called it we have an algorithm that will do it automatically. No, it's not an algorithm. You're using fucking AI, and AI has the emotional standards of a box of rocks, and so you can get banned for almost anything. I mean, completely innocuous posts that have really no bad intention in them at all, you can get a 30-day ban. And the thing about it is that the pandemic, you know, according to the government, the pandemic's over. Right. But Facebook never brought those employees back. And the really screwed up thing is that, so you get one of these 30-day bans for who knows. I mean, it's baffling. And it'll say, if you want to contest this, click this link, blah blah blah. It never works. Even if you fill out the paperwork for it, it goes nowhere, to nobody.
Yeah,
Nobody looks at it.
Feel better about the situation. You got to fill out some paperwork and vent. It's
Right.
okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's your mental health counseling right there.
Right. And so yeah, I mean the whole thing is very, very fucked up. But I mean, again, there's all these people, free speech, and want to pull their puds over it. I got bad news for you. Facebook, Twitter, Threads, Hive, all of those are private companies. Free speech doesn't apply. Period.
Oh yeah, well, Facebook is a social experiment. I mean, really, I mean, it is a study of humans for advertising purposes.
Absolutely.
And that's all it is.
I mean,
nothing else.
Zuckerberg literally stole the idea from his partner, but the two of them.
He was trying to scout out women.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, but the two of them really were
it.
geniuses. They figured out a psychological pattern ahead of everybody else and exploited it.
I mean, tell that to Tom.
For tons of money. Well, yeah. Tom made a lot of mistakes, though. I mean, yeah, Tom made a lot of mistakes, but yeah, they exploited it for a ton of money. And I mean, let's face it, even if Facebook were to collapse tomorrow and no longer exist, he's still rich enough that he will be rich. Him and his children and his children's children will be rich beyond our wildest dreams forever. That money ain't going away. So, I mean, like I said, you got to give the man credit. But
they can invest in a 2% interest in
right.
taking care of for 300 generations.
I mean, even if they pick the shittiest Roth IRA, they're still rich for the rest of their lives. But I digress. Anyways, what I was saying was that inflation has hit me like a ton of bricks, and so that book came. I got the proof copy Wednesday afternoon, and I was overjoyed because I'm just going to go ahead and pat myself on the back. It is the best thing I've ever written, and this particular book is the best that has come out. Like, usually I have to make some concessions because even if you find errors, it costs money every time you have to redo one of those. And so if you're already operating on a shoestring budget, that can start to get sketchy. But this one had no errors. It was pretty much perfect out of the chute. And I was immediately able to throw it up, and it just immediately generated sales. And so now I'm back to breathing easy, at least for another couple months until I publish another book. So, hooray!
Hooray!
That just means you got to fucking feed the beast, man. You got to
You
fucking keep coming with content, you know.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's just how the market works. I mean,
yeah,
everybody that's gonna buy your book buys it, and then sales dip, and you have to come out with a new book, and that will generate a few new sales as well, because people will see it and then they'll be like, oh, well, we have to get the older stuff. And so, like I said, it's an up and down process, and you just gotta keep shitting out content. And luckily for me, I've got ideas for the Braunhaven campaign setting for years to come. Well, maybe not year. Well, yeah, for years. I would say for at least through next year, and then and now I've finally. I knew this day was coming. I didn't expect it to come this soon, but I have decided I am going to make my own role-playing game, I'll make my own role-playing game with blackjack and hookers, and it is going to be a gonzo, like everything in the kitchen sink sci-fi setting. It's not really sci-fi; a sci-fantasy setting. So yeah, that is forthcoming. I've made great leaps and bounds in actually writing that, so that's forthcoming too. And my goal for that's going to be a huge book, because my goal for that is I don't want to put out, oh, well, here's the player's handbook, and here's the referee's handbook, and then here is the monster manual, and, oh, you're going to need a game master screen. I want the players to be able to buy one book and have all that shit in it, and then maybe buy a DM screen, and not do the having to buy 3 core rulebooks. To me seems like a cash grab, like it's nickel and diming.
Well, if you just only sold it as a bundle,
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to set a thing up for tabletop things, you would want the perfect bundle if you were doing it on like hardback books. Is you like one DM manual type book and one monster manual type book, and then you want to throw 2 or even maybe 3 players handbooks in there, and if you can throw that bundle together, then on any kind of game system you want, a DM can get those hardback books, loan 1 or 2 copies of the player's handbook out to the prospective players so they don't have to get invested, and then plus have one themselves,
right?
And then at the table, multiple people will be able to have the thing. Well, online, that all bets are off because everybody can share everything in theory.
Right.
But yeah, at the tabletop, I think if you did a bundle of hardback books and you had multiple players' handbooks in that, the results of that would pay off.
Well,
even if some people are reluctant to get into it, because it makes you pretty much ready to be able to put something together and start actually playing.
Well, I've never been one of those DMs where there's some game masters they tell their players, don't look at the monster manual. You're not supposed to know this. Well, to hell with that. There's nothing that you could possibly do that would stop anybody from buying the monster manual or reading the Dungeon Master's Guide. There's nothing that a game master can do. Nothing. And
homebrew. Well, write your own shit.
Right.
Write your own shit, and nobody can download it.
But back in the day, and I don't know how many of you guys ever played it, but does anybody remember the first edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay? Anybody?
I've got it right here.
Oh God, I love that book. To this day, I keep that in a special spot on a bookshelf, like it's a Bible. Yep, love that book. That is a favorite book of mine. And I remember that at the time it was even kind of, well, it was revolutionary in a lot of ways. But one of the things that immediately stuck out to me is that if you buy that one book, you essentially have everything that you need to not only play the game, but to run the game. You didn't really need anything else, unless you wanted to do the at that time the big campaign was The Enemy Within, and which still to this day is like one of the best.
It's phenomenal. It's really well done.
Yeah, it absolutely breathtaking in its quality. And then more recently,
I heard of that one.
More recently, Paizo did the same thing. If you buy Pathfinder core rulebook, everything's in there. If you buy Starfinder core rulebook, everything's in there. Now, I don't care for either of those systems.
I would hold out for the new Starfinder. They're revising it.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing that they did with Pathfinder 2.0.
Well, Starfinder needed help.
It did.
It was not play tested nearly enough, and it had some real problems.
Yeah.
And so the new Starfinder will be much, much better.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I don't care for either of those systems. I would much rather, for sci-fi, I would much rather play Traveler or... I don't know, Starfinder to me always felt too much like Dungeons and Dragons in space.
Well, I always tell people if I was going to run Shadowrun, I would use Starfinder rules.
Yeah, see, I could see it probably doing well for that. I could see Starfinder doing Here's a slap in the face for Watsy. Starfinder does a better job of doing Spelljammer than Spelljammer does for D&D.
Sure.
I mean,
For sure.
100%. But either way, no matter what you're doing, you're still playing D&D in space. And like Shadowrun, and I've always had a problem of the mixing of genres. I have a hard time with the idea that a dragon is the CEO of a mega corporation. I have a hard idea that dragons are living on an asteroid in some unknown forgotten sector of space. And no, that change the dragons into aliens that are going to lay their embryos in your chest, and now we're more closely related to what I'm interested in. So yeah, yeah, this thing's gonna have everything in it. So, but I'm also at the same time keeping it grounded in a more science fiction manner, But I don't want to go the full Star Wars route where, oh well, how does hyperspace work? I don't know, it just does, man. I don't want to do that either. But
well, I mean, they were pretty faithful to the source material that they were using.
True.
True. If you go back and read the fiction by Tubb, I mean, they're basically citing exactly what he put in his fiction in terms of how jump space works.
Right. So yeah, I'm making progress on this. So, but welcome to Deepnight Revelation. We will be picking up where we left off last week. So last week, these guys were in a protostar system, and they basically got to see the formation or what a star system looks like in the formation or early days of the star, and it was going through its temper tantrums and teething, and they got to walk on the surface of a proto gas giant because the atmosphere wasn't so thick and heavy that you couldn't land on it yet, and not a whole lot of scientific revelations. It was more or less a, hey, this is our chance to see something for the first time, and so they did. And there were some screw-ups that happened. One involving, once again, Chandra. And this time, so she, one of the ships got in trouble, and she, without orders, took a launch and was going to go try and rescue them, but she has no piloting ability. And so these guys talked her down, and she was arrested for essentially, I don't want to say, commandeering a craft, unauthorized commandeering of a craft. And she is now in the brig. And we'll get to that whole... Oh, and Mayak took a rather large dose of radiation from a solar flare, and is in a Bocephus-induced coma.
Yeah.
And we will look into that too, because I mean, that was a big enough dose of radiation that we
may not survive.
Yeah, we don't know. He's going to have to make some endurance rolls, and so.
Well,
yeah.
Can I?
It wasn't great for us either. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys got some itches and some scabs going on.
Can I regenerate away from rads?
No. So once you have rads, and after all of the anti-rad medication you take and whatnot, whatever's left over is now with you. At least for its half-life, which is probably a couple thousand years.
Yeah, we all got that little bonus to our character sheets.
Yeah, you took what, 60?
Yeah.
So I believe that's correct.
Yeah, so that's quite a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, you'll be fine. You'll be okay. I mean, just think of it like you got a whole lot of. You went through several chest X-rays, and maybe flew across the country 4 or 5 times, like
well,
in a week.
it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it at the present moment in time. When maybe I can perform some experiments on this young lad here and come up with a way that would benefit us all, and be able to recycle him in some kind of way that he will be of use.
Well, like I said, let's not
He's
get ahead of
not dead
ourselves.
yet.
He's not dead yet. So
Yeah.
don't recycle him just yet. Like,
Oh, but
keep
I
the
mean,
bin nearby. You want,
Right.
people go in the blue bin, and
Yeah. Well, he'll need some enhancements for sure, and that is exciting in its own right.
maybe he'll become a superhero.
Gonna try.
Yeah,
Gonna give it a good
maybe.
fucking try. Yeah.
I mean,
I've got some cool DNA samples that I want to try to have some fun with in my laboratory.
I'm pretty sure
Mysterious
that,
things.
Well, I'll ask this question in a moment. So, before we get started, I'd like to thank a friend of the Greenwater Guildhall. None of these are sponsorships or partnerships of any kind. They are just products that we really like. And tonight we would like to thank Fable Beard Company. Fable Beard Company makes wonderful beard products such as oils, balms, butters, and co-wash. And, sorry. My wife is texting me. And so... they each of their scent profiles is a different fantasy character, and tonight, for instance, I am wearing Dr. Wolf beard butter, which smells of blueberries and pipe tobacco, and it is a big hit with just about everybody I've introduced it to. But they have many different scents, and so I'm sure they have one that would, suit your liking. If you're a first-time purchaser, you can go to fablebeardco.com and they have a buy one get one free option. So create an account, and when you're checking out, you can put 2 beard oils into your cart, and when you check out, you can use the code FIRST in all capital letters, and that will get you that second beard oil for free. If you're a fan of the channel, we do have a merch store via Zazzle that we've got t-shirts, we've got a fleece blanket, buttons, a really big beer stein that makes an excellent coffee mug. If you want to help us out, go get yourself a button or a t-shirt, and hell, just get yourself a fleece. They've got a fleece blanket on there that is quite large. It comes in 3 sizes. The smallest one is great for an infant baby blanket. And the middle size is about what you would expect for, a fleece blanket for a chair or whatever. But then they have a large, and I mean, I've got a queen size bed, and that would cover most of that bed. So, yeah. Go grab a blanket if you want. If you sit in front of the air conditioner and you're cold in the middle of 105-degree temperatures, go get a fleece blanket. And we appreciate if you do.
You guys are cold.
I know, right? Yeah, it's hard to think like that in the middle of summer.
It's not over 110.
Right? Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, it's going to be 104 here tomorrow, and it's funny because one of my Braunhaven campaigns, there's everything that they're doing. It's still winter, and it's really hard to get into that mindset and worry about cold weather when it's 104 outside. It's very...
And 102 inside.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's with the AC on. But anyways, we appreciate anything you purchase from the merch store, and we thank you. So, you guys, so Chandra, first things first, you guys kind of, he didn't really dress her down. She is beside herself with regret, and not regret, but guilt and grief over Mayek's situation. He's of course in a plastic tent in the bed in a medically induced coma. Everybody's crossing their fingers. I don't know particularly why, but everybody's crossing their fingers that Mike's gonna. He's not a bad guy.
He's not.
He's not. He's just fucking stupid.
Idiot. He's just an idiot.
He's just an idiot.
But
And she
Sandra,
ain't much brighter.
Yeah, Sandra, on the other hand, really has no place on this expedition after this.
So right, and that is exactly what the XO tells you. The XO kind of after everything's said and done, after basically she's allowed to sit by the bed for a couple of hours, and then she is rather calmly escorted to the brig, and the XO pulls you guys aside, and he says, "Well, the old man has decided that she's going to be in the brig for a while," and he says, strangely, he hasn't set a definitive time of how long she's going to be in the brig. We talked it over, and the reality of the matter is that if this had happened, either before or at Demnon Point, we would have just kicked her off the mission, and maybe we should have listened more closely to you guys, or push for that. But hindsight's 2020. We can't turn around and waste time to take her back, to get her off. So
why don't we just put her in a low berth, and she will still be young enough to serve her punishment properly, and just let the Imperium deal with this shit at another time. If she's in a low berth, we don't have to fucking use resources to fucking take her and fucking walk her and guard her and oversee her.
He says,
I mean, that's a lot of manpower over time.
That's not at all a terrible idea. But he says, the captain is a bit of a soft touch, and he genuinely believes that there is some chance at redemption here, and so what he hasn't put a time limit on how long she's going to be in the brig. What he does want is and the XO looks directly at Bocephus, and he says, "So you, if I understand correctly, you have some psychiatric training."
I do.
He says, "So what the old man wants is he wants you to set up a schedule, probably at least for the first couple of weeks, maybe as much as 3 weeks. He wants you to go in and basically counsel her 3 times a week."
Sure.
And the XO says, "To be real honest, I don't know what he's expecting you to get out of this, but maybe you can talk her down of whatever irrational edge that she's on." He says, "From my point of view, I'd like you to maybe find out what her major malfunction is." And,
all right.
Yeah. So that maybe we can keep a better eye on that. He says, "But that, you do what you think you need to do in your professional opinion."
I will take that commandment and order to the letter of what you've said and fulfill it in a very meaningful way.
Okay. So the Chandra situation, like he said, she's going to be locked up for a while. And then I had another question here. Maybe it's here. Here we go. Medical treatment. So medical care restores.
Your NAS is progressing nicely.
All right. So, what is Bocephus's medic skill?
4.
Okay.
I am the best I could be.
He's the best doctor in the region.
I'm definitely the best one in the room.
Yeah. So your medic skill's 4, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, his endurance ain't great.
And then I get a 1 if you want me to use either intelligence or EDU. And then if it's something that I really think is important, I would take a moment to inspire myself.
No, this isn't for you. This is for Mayak. So Mayak has to make an endurance
roll. Right. Oh, I'm saying if I'm going to do a medic roll and it's important, I'm going to inspire myself to get even more bonuses on it.
Oh,
that's
right.
Yeah. But
so,
this is fine.
All right. So
let him do his thing. Whatever. I've got him in the lab or the med bay, really.
Okay. So Mayak is actually doing okay.
He's alive.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah. But I mean, he's in a coma. I mean,
gonna keep him that way until we get his body rebuilt.
Yeah, he's gonna take some healing, but yeah, with a 14 endurance check, yeah, he's doing okay.
Now, the bio whatever chamber, the cloning chamber that has all that.
Uh-huh.
Can I use that to try to regenerate some of his shit? With some minor cell manipulation. Can I kind of put we're talking real futuristic shit. I'm thinking, God, if I in theory can take your cell samples and make a clone of you, and make you a fully adult in 2 weeks, I mean, surely I could take a living you and make the healing process better.
So under a normal situation, that would be something suitable. Where somebody gets shot in or stabbed in the liver, you could theoretically clone them a new liver and do surgery and replace it, and they wouldn't even need rejection meds or anything like that because it's the same liver. But radiation is a little bit different in that it's not affecting one organ. It's affecting all of them at the same time, and you simply couldn't replace everything fast enough to do it. You know what I mean? Like you would be replacing the heart, liver, lungs, everything all at an equal position, and obviously you can't. And the other problem with radiation, of course, is that let's say that you decided to do the heart transplant first before replacing the lungs, which you could pick whichever one you want to do first, but let's say you did heart first, just for example. The lungs are still contaminated, and so that fresh, brand new cloned heart that you would put in there would then get contaminated, and the radiation would continue to cause a problem. So there's really no real way that you would be. I mean, if he's gonna die, he's gonna die. Is really the medical prognosis. But I mean, it was a difficult 12+ check. He got a 14, so he's doing okay. He's just gonna take a really long nap, and hopefully, that'll give him a +2 on his next roll. So, in addition to being in a medical facility and your medic bonus, even with his -1, that still gives him a +7 to his roll. So, your
pretty good odds there.
Yeah, your prognosis is that he may make it out of this.
Yeah, good job.
He's going to be a little sickly for the rest of his life, but and he probably should invest in a lot of sunscreen. A lot. And
maybe we could,
no more microwave burritos or anything like that.
Maybe we could give him some augmentations.
It's a good thing he's got a baby on ice. He's probably the only kid he's going to have.
Right, yeah. I don't think he actually... I don't. Let me see. What was it? Here it is. He did have hair loss. Oh no, he is sterile now. Yes, he is sterile. He lost 3 endurance permanently. So
Yeah,
you know,
I expect him to return to some form of duty at some time.
yeah, at least light duty. Well, see, and this was the same train of thought with Chandra. In that, so the captain knows it. I mean, you can't just. Obviously, what she did isn't a bad enough offense to space her. And I mean, saying that, partly
I don't
facetiously.
know if Jack wouldn't agree with that.
No, Jack probably like, fuck it, space her. It's not a bad enough situation to shove her out the airlock. But, and like I said, I say that partially facetiously. It is also fairly serious that, no, we're not going to do that. But at the same time, everybody on this ship has to pull their weight.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what's up with her. I mean, it's obvious for some time. I've got sessions with her, and I have many options that may not be as traceable as some other people can do. So we'll see. I might be able to make something out of her yet.
Right, and Bocephus and Sarda, if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong on this, we've been playing a lot, it's almost a year now. You guys haven't revealed to the captain or the XO that you are psionic, right?
No, there's no reason to do that.
Nope.
Okay.
But, I mean, obviously Sarda and I don't hide it from each other. We probably have crazy...
you guys, I'm pretty sure that cat's already out of the bag. You guys have already...
Oh, no, he's definitely helped me with work on telepathy, and that's how I picked up telepathy, actually, is working with him.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the thought is that both of these individuals, they're hoping, the hope from the captain is that they can be rehabilitated and become useful members of your little 500-person society.
Okay. Well, I can use her for target practice. I know what I can do. I can use her to test my new alcohol mixes and see if she goes blind.
Right. The thing is like everything we're doing is like we're like a snowball growing, headed to this fungus climax, and well, I mean, hear me out. And so, like, every decision we make right now is adding to our snowball as we roll towards this thing. And so either we'll hit rocks and trees and get smaller, or we'll get bigger and be able. And so, I mean, every resource, as far as like, especially humanity in itself, is probably worth trying to protect as best we can.
Well,
as much as I want to really do devious things to her.
Right,
I mean,
and that
my character is really more of a humanitarian than a killer.
Right, and that is partially where the captain is coming from. Is that these 500 souls are the Imperium's, or really not just the Imperium, charted spaces. Really, only hope in dealing with this entity. And so he from the captain's point of view, is that they can't even lose one person. You can't there's only 500 of you. You can't afford to be down to 499. And part of that reason is, like, in a lot of in tactical situations, the thought can be that up to a third are acceptable losses. But when you have this kind of limited, when you have this kind of a limited amount, and absolutely no hope of reinforcements and no hope of additional help, a third is that would be absolutely, that would destroy you. I mean, no lie. Especially if you lose a third before you even get to the end, and you guys have only taken your first steps towards your goal. So, and granted, the revelation is still taking those tentative first steps, and the crew is still finding themselves. They are getting better, but you know,
it is what it is.
It is what it is, and it's not. This is not a. Unfortunately, it's not an all-military crew. So that
is our morale fucked up because of this thing, or I mean, the other ship got rescued, right? There's just some light damage and stuff. We can come back from that.
It did, and yeah, there was some damage. The techs down in the bays think that they're going to be able to. Take care of this. That's no ships were lost. There was no so far no loss of life. And but I mean you have the medical bays have been treating radiation burns, not any quite so bad as Mayek's, but pretty much everybody on that mission took at least 60 rads, and so they're kind of a wait and see, and probably go in for monthly prostate checks, and cross your fingers.
That's just a blood test.
Yeah. So, about 6 weeks has gone by, and so Bocephus, go ahead and make your social sciences. Plus,
have we left the system yet? Or are we still there?
Oh no, you've been jumping your way along, but like I said, about 6 weeks has gone by, and the course is anything but straight, because out where you guys are at, you don't have mains and chains. And instead, you kind of have to go this way, and then you go that way, and then you go that way, and then you go that way, and then you get to go straight across. So, kind of been zigzagging all over the place, because you have to jump to where the fuel sources are. And so
it was social sciences and what?
Education.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Where's the other guy?
9.
Okay, so your sessions with Chandra over the last 6 weeks, she is, in the first 2 or 3 weeks worth of sessions, she was very quiet and kind of embarrassed at her behavior. She realizes that it was impulsive, and she's being, at least from what you can tell, she seems to be being fairly honest about this, is that she is regretful, and but she's been quiet, and if you would like, you can make a read surface thoughts plus psi check.
I would, but I would also like to try and see her eyes for a second. You know, she's obviously not going to be able to be in as trustworthy position as she once was. But perhaps if we let her have the kid, she would have a more thought out process in her going about doing things. So she would have the responsibility of raising the kid.
I don't know how everybody else feels about that.
Well, you know, I mean, right now, I mean, you know, it's more of a question of, you know, I really only have to ask, you know, maybe the fellow crew members of us or the captain, you know, and see that. But I mean, if she's already this marred, we could, in theory, by the time that we get to the climax of this thing, this kid could be a fully grown adult and trained and very useful.
Well,
if we are short-handed, we can at least let her do something over the next 4, 5, 10 years. Getting this kid going along is
he could be between the age of 10 and 14 by the time you get to Terminus Point.
Yeah, it could be a Wesley Crusher, man. That's useful.
I think it sets a really bad precedent for the rest of the crew. There are a lot of other people that might want to be parents, and we're not going to allow them.
Right.
So allowing them to raise a child means that the rest of the crew is basically daily rubbed in the face, having it rubbed in their face that there's an injustice here.
It's true.
But I mean, we could see what the crew's feedback is on that too, and see if that's really an issue of them thinking that or not.
I think it's a bad idea because we're not going to let anybody else do it.
Well, I mean, anybody that wants to sacrifice their ability to be useful in part of the ship and just sit there and be isolated and not have a lot to do.
They've all signed agreements that they would not have children. This person violated that, and so allowing them to raise a child in front of everybody else is a horrible. It's not.
Already bad behavior.
Yep.
Well. Anyway, this is an option.
So did you want to try to read Surface Thoughts, or do you?
Yeah, I'll try to read Surface Thoughts.
Okay.
Sure. If both Sarda and Randy are that, I mean, much against it, then cool, whatever. So this will be Psi plus Teletheus plus 3. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, your telepathy plus your psi.
Yeah. Right now my psi is 12. 10.
Okay. So
I will read some good thoughts.
So the first 3 weeks of these 3 times a week sessions, like I said, she's very shy and genuinely embarrassed. Shows regret for what she did, guilt. But reading her Surface Thoughts, you're getting essentially a jumble of mixed thoughts. Like her right now, her brain is fixated on thoughts of whether Mayak is going to be okay, and then also, thinking about not only the fact that she has a potential baby or an embryo, not really baby, an embryo that is on ice right now, and that that she's fretting over the fact that when she gets back, she'll be in her mid to late 50s, and she'll have to make the decision on whether or not to have that child. And so that of course is weighing on her. And you also, in conjunction with that, as a third section of this jumble of thoughts, is that she is guilty and embarrassed over the stinking thinking that came to her of wanting to do that in the first place, thinking that having a child would somehow make her relationship better. It's obvious now that she is entirely embarrassed by that. She was acting like a teenage girl and just completely idiotic in that thinking. So the first 3 weeks is a little rough, and she really doesn't want to open up a whole lot, mostly because she's so embarrassed by her actions that she doesn't even want to voice it to herself.
You know what? I'm gonna let her care for the monkey.
Okay.
No, that's a good idea.
This will give her something to do and something to interact with. And then I'm going to tell her that we've noticed that she's talking in her sleep, and she seems to be focused too much on Malik at the time, and the embryo. I'm going to try to help her process the fact that those things are out of her control, and she's unable to help anybody if she doesn't get herself in a situation to where she's actually useful to the Deepnight. I mean, let's try to get into the idea of her marrying the mission for a little while, and the greater scope of things.
Okay, so the second 3 weeks of the 6 is kind of your therapy set. Now that you've got a baseline to start from, the second 3 weeks is kind of your therapy, and go ahead and make another social sciences plus education check.
I get +2 on this.
Okay.
I'm just telling you my total. It was more of just talking because of diarrhea in the mouth. 8. I got an 8.
So your monkey therapy, as it is now going to forever be colloquially called, seems to be working. At first, she didn't like the idea because and her exact thoughts on that were she was quite vocal about it. Is that it's almost insulting that you would think that a monkey would be able to take the place of what might have been her baby. But you persist, and at the end of that 3 weeks, she is taking to it. And so the therapy is, in your view, it seems to be gaining some ground with her. You're making some progress. But
all right.
I mean, how different is that from a service dog or an empathy dog
Right. Yeah, very similar to like a service dog or my cat as an emotional.
How's the general health of Momo in all this? I mean, is she doing her job? Is the monkey cared for, provided for?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
She's
is she starting to get affection and bond with this monkey?
Yeah. By the end of the 3 weeks, so at the beginning, she took it as a responsibility, something that I guess responsibility is. Well, I guess responsibility is the right word, but more like a job, something that she had to do in order to progress. But then by the end of the 3 weeks, you do see that there is a genuine attachment, or at least starting to form one.
Wonderful.
So towards the end of the 5th week, the stellar the astrogation of Deepnight, they jump out or they refuel at the nearest gas giant like they always do, and they are doing some scans, and the scans are not promising for stellar density as far as parsecs that have another gas giant for them to refuel at, and so it takes a little bit longer, and they finally do find one to where they don't have to backtrack, and it was kind of the the last place you would look, and they find one. And it just so happens that they had actually gone over this particular hex on the map multiple times, and they didn't see it. And finally, they found that this little system that is there has one gas giant, and it is a smaller gas giant, but it is there. And so the captain ordered them to jump to that system. You'll refuel. And cross your fingers that you don't have to backtrack again, and that things will be looking on the up and up. And so, at the end of the 6th week, the ship comes out of jump, And initially, and of course, as per your procedures that you have put into place, they go ahead and they do an active sensor scan. But immediately coming out of jump, of course, they can see this gas giant, and the immediate thing from the passive sensors that comes back is that this small gas giant, for one reason or another, has a really, really wide ring system. And initially on the passive sensors, it's coming back that they are seeing weird shimmers in the ring system. Like for one reason or another, they're reflecting light in a very odd pattern.
Sounds like more space whales.
Well, I mean, we have to keep investigating as we go, or we'll never find anything. We just have to be careful about it. But I mean, that's just from passive sensors. I mean, that's really Sarda's shit.
So they of course enact an active sensor scan, and
I rolled a 16 on that.
Okay, good, because they do pick up something. They immediately call Sarda over on the bridge, and so it is a broad ring system, and the guy on sensors says that it's a little weird that such a small gas giant would have a broad ring system, but it's not so especially rare to be, concerned about. But what is strange is that the rings are scattering starlight in an unusual manner, and the sensor scan that he ran, he shows to you, and it does look to you like something is perturbing the rings. And you notice that in this star system, or in this solar system, that there are a few large bodies. Most of the system is a belt. There aren't very large planets. In fact, there aren't any planets at all. But there are planetoids and things of that manner. So things the size of like Neptune, or not Neptune, but Pluto. But even though there are these large bodies that you've detected, you're not seeing that they're in a position where their gravity could disturb these rings. And it seems, from what you're witnessing, it seems that the disturbances in the rings is localized to several areas, and it spreads out from an epicenter in the middle of these rings, kind of like somebody threw a rock into a pond. And then it'll happen here, and then over here it'll happen, and then over here it'll happen. It's never really in the same spot twice.
Well, we need to check that shit out. That could be something that our predecessors, from something they did or manipulate. I mean, there's, in theory, someone's gone this way before us, whether we're in parallel to that course or on top of the course or what. That remains to be seen, but we have to assume that they were restricted by hydrogen access as well. So
Sardo kind of goes over and does a bit of a sensor analysis, and really, of course, his first thing looking at this would be to kind of do a diagnostic check, make sure the sensors aren't, maybe they take a solar flare, but no, they didn't. They're working. And you are seeing that there are intermittent gravity fields in the rings. And they come and go from 1 minute to minute. They'll be over here. Next minute they'll be over there, and that's what's causing these small perturbations of these raw. And mostly these rings are just ice fragments, and so that's why there's this weird glittering. And as revelation kind of gets closer, the resolution on the sensor scan gets better, and now Sarda's picking up intermittent gravity fields, and they look very similar to gravity fields that would be produced by a starship's maneuver drive.
Okay, so that maybe there's ships there?
Maybe. So it's not space whales.
Right. Well, I mean, rather than risk the whole, we need to send a small scouting ship ahead, whether it's us or NPCs.
So we're getting no signal of ships, but I'm getting the gravity field.
Yeah. You're seeing
any comps.
You're seeing intermittent gravity fields that look a lot like what would be produced by a starship's maneuver drive.
Any type of communication.
You're picking up nothing.
Nothing.
The only sound when you turn on your comms, the only sound that comes back is the weird that comes from a gas giant.
Should we try sending out a comm signal and see what happens?
I would think so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, that's before we send scout ship out. I mean,
yeah, we'll send out the random message. This is Deepnight Endeavor. We're on an exploratory mission to explore strange new worlds and find samples of DNA.
And find space babes and.
Yeah, we're gonna do some experiments, but anyway, if we're
speak up or we'll blow you up.
Yeah, if you're out there, please respond.
Okay, so your comms officer kind of sends out a message. Nothing comes back.
Then the next step, I think, would be to send a scout party to go investigate. And God, I gotta think that's us. Is that right?
your science guys on the bridge are saying things like, maybe these are some kind of stealthy alien starship that's out there, and we don't have a way of detecting them. And another guy says, maybe it's just a natural phenomenon. Who knows? But obviously, the captain says, well, we can't sit here with empty tanks. So,
got to begin the refueling process. So, I mean, that definitely requires that we go investigate that area, just for the safety. I mean, while we're here, aren't we going to take several extremely long-range scans and see if we can plot a course as we branch forward?
They're beginning that right now.
I mean, and those are type of things that take weeks, right?
Well, I mean, days.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. If we're going to spend time looking for something we don't know about, take a few days.
Yeah.
I'll feel better.
Well, you have to figure, so Deepnight Revelation can look out. It has astrogation telescopes that can look out probably, and I don't remember what the exact number was, but it's something like
10.
It's like 12 hexes on the map.
Yeah.
I mean, it can look a long ways, and it can determine, those 12 parsecs out. It can determine if that 12th parsec, if there's a gas giant or something of that manner in there. It would be like if you dialed the James Webb Space Telescope up to like a factor of 100. Like it might not be high resolution, but they can see if there's a gas giant. So that's what they've been using to plot these courses. They can also usually tell if a particular parsec has worlds in the habitable zone or things of that manner. And it's not always perfect. Sometimes you'll show up and you'll find things that you didn't expect to be there, or you'll find things that you thought were supposed to be there that are not. So that's what they're doing right now. They are scanning for their next jump plot. But the captain's like, well, we can't, sit here with empty tanks. So what would you guys like to do?
I guess we're going to take the Dresniks over and investigate these fucking gravitational fields. We might need to take some scientists along to be able to look at that.
Okay.
Do you have any physicists?
Yeah, you've got space sciences, and so
out the kazoo.
So here's
just the real question is: do we want to do it with player characters, or do we want to send NPCs and just see what kind of report comes back?
Yeah, it's up to you.
After losing a crew, I'm getting kind of.
I say we go with, some maneuver drive scientists. Engineers, and it's interesting. The gravitic fields are interesting. So, bring some engineers and scientists to explore the anomalies and see what we find out.
So, do we have like a secure quarters on the Dresnex?
No. So on the Dresnex, you've got very limited quarters. It's a scout ship. This is, you've got four rooms with double bunks.
Okay.
And I fart and snore.
No, that just shows us that 8 people total go on the ship. So
right.
That's what that says, and that is that.
I know it's metformin. It does that.
Well, technically, you could go as many as 16 on a rotation.
That's correct, and we might do that. But so yeah, then I was going to say we'll bring old home chicken with us in her new charged monkey if we could give her a room and keep her in there. It's more of like I really prefer to keep her close than leave her behind. She seems to fuck things up, but
leave her.
Yeah, she's in the brig. Her and the monkey ain't going nowhere.
All right, fair enough. Then we'll take off into the shit.
So are you guys? So you guys want to take some space scientists? I assume with you.
Yeah, and maybe a intern or two. Somebody. If the idea of the cross training type thing. Somebody that's in cross training in the field.
Does David the Magic Man want to come?
That's right.
Yeah. You could bring David Anderreich, the space wizard. Sure, why not?
We haven't talked to him in a while. We need to talk to him, find out what he's saying.
And I need an assistant.
Yeah, well, he makes an excellent one.
An assistant. So, well, no, I need besides space wizard. Hopefully, I can bring some kind of assistant.
Yeah.
A biological life science.
Yeah, like a lab assistant.
Yeah. Because my last one ended up, it needs to be kind of the broader range of skill set that the NPC has, even if they're a little lower numbers, the better. I might have many needs for my assistant to do. I have high standards.
So this is a metagame, but you remember how last week we were talking, Will was saying that the way I was doing the life sciences, physical sciences, etc., was the way Classic Traveler did them. Well, It's funny because I was reading ahead in Rift's Edge Transit, and they evidently are handling the science skills exactly the same way. They don't have the individuals. They're just like, oh, we'll make a life sciences check, and I'm like, huh. Okay, so I guess I was somebody else was on the same track as I was, and so yeah, you can bring a lab assistant, who has he's got life sciences and physical sciences.
Okay, do we get a picture and a graphic for this guy, or is he just an imaginary friend?
I just threw him together. So
okay.
But he's got 2 in each of those.
All right.
And he's got 2 breasts.
Right. Well, yeah. We'll
3.
We'll give him
3 breasts. Oh my God, he must be on Mars.
Yeah, I'm going to call him Stimpy.
Stimpy, yes, Ensign Stimpy.
Yep.
So Stimpy, yeah, he's perfectly happy to be your lab assistant. He's got life sciences too and physical sciences too. Not skilled a whole lot in anything else. He does have vac suit 0, but not a whole lot more. He's fairly young too. Like he's 20.
Somebody else we can sacrifice to the Jets.
Yes.
Well, no, I need him working right now on his spare time. I want him working on sensors. I want him learning how to use sensors for scanning purposes.
Okay, well, he's going to be at -3 for that. He is literally a lab assistant.
Understand, but
And like he despite all the options for cybernetics, he's wearing like super thick, like Coke bottle glasses, and he's pasty white. Like he doesn't look like he's left the lab in. Well, maybe since before you left Tobiah, he may not.
Okay,
have left the lab.
He needs some reading material on the sensors.
Well, I'll let him do the initial scanning, and then I'll scan and walk him through what I'm doing.
Okay.
All right, in the lab, to be able to scan things and analyze the data are needed skill sets, and so I want him learning those. If he's going to be a scientific assistant, he needs to be able to gather data, and scanning is the typical way that takes place.
Okay, so you're cross training him. Gotcha. I know how this works.
Put a shock collar on him if it makes him learn faster.
You learn that in your life sciences.
We'll just use starters. We'll just use starters. Starter can stun him if he doesn't do good enough.
So Jack goes ahead and takes you guys in closer, and he will make the initial, your Stimpy will make the initial sensors check. And we'll say that Stimpy has a +1 to his intellect. So
nice.
He's only
Stimpy's character sheet's growing as we're talking, so that's good. Yeah. He's formulated. He's going to become a.
Look at the use big rolls on Stimpy. Wow. So Stimpy comes back with some sensor data, and so Sarda kind of looks it over, and Stimpy, did everything right, and of course Sarda, knowing how to do things properly, Sarda does it better. But between the two of you, so Sarda looks over what sensor data Stimpy pulls up, and it is correct. So Stimpy, Sarda gave him kind of the quick tour of how to operate sensors. And Stimpy jumped in both feet. And Stimpy had the big brain idea that, so what if this is stealthy alien starships? Let's take a worst case scenario. And Stimpy's idea, well, Stimpy says whether a starship is stealthy or not, there's still going to be a large lump of metal. And so...
Still going to be mass. Still going to be mass. Still going to be gravity.
Yeah. Exactly. And so Stimpy starts to scan for that. And so the three things about a starship, whether they're stealth or not, they're a large lump of metal. They can usually be detected by electromagnetic and thermal signature. And the last, of course, is drive emissions. And the only thing that you've picked up so far looks possibly like drive emissions. And so Stimpy starts scan. He does pick up faint electromagnetic emissions. But the data that's coming in, that's where his big brain gets confused, because the information that's coming in doesn't make any sense. And Sarda, you kind of scan it, and indeed, it is not consistent with any known starship type. It's not even remotely similar to any kind of ship you've ever seen.
Okay.
Well, that would stand to reason we're in uncharted territory. If there is ships and other alien species out here flying around, they would be doing things a tad different than what we're used to.
Everybody, or all three of you, make a recon plus intellect check.
Well, let's see. What's it say?
I'll get a +2 here then. So, go.
Nice.
Excellent. Excellent.
11. Yeah.
7.
So Randolph is probably down in the back in engineering.
Checking the power and the life support.
Yeah, you're back here somewhere, and there's probably no windows where you're at, so you don't see shit. But everybody on the ship suddenly gets really quiet, and everybody is looking out the viewports, and that is what Bocephus and Serta. That's initially what causes you to look up to see what it is that they are looking at, and you see.
Close your eyes, Randy.
I'm gonna
Don't look at the screen, motherfucker. Wow, it's a big snake.
So you see these weird ribbons of multicolored light that are moving through the rings, and as they pass through the rings, the ice fragments in the belts of these rings get disturbed and kind of like, well, these ribbons of light will jump up and then back down into the rings, kind of like a rock in a pond, and cause these ice fragments to scatter out. And you're seeing that there are 3 to 5. Well, it's really difficult for you to tell. Bocephus looks out the window and thinks that there are 3 large ones, but Sarda looks out and sees that one of them kind of splits off into 2, and he thinks that maybe there are 5 large ones. And then between the 2 of you, there's no consensus on how many there are smaller ones, maybe 7 to 12 smaller ones. And they are really paying no attention to your ship at all. However,
and I hear ooh and ahs and oh my god up on the headphones.
Yes.
And ask what is going on up there.
So I'm going to have a question for each of you, but I'm going to start with Bocephus. Well, so Sarda.
Yep.
You're human, right? Yes.
I am.
Where are you from?
I am from. I'm trying to remember the name of the planet. It's I
guess the better question is: are you, if you're human, are you Solomani or are you Villani?
I don't know on that. Let me see here. I'm trying to remember the name of the planet. Or the system I'm from. So the homeworld is Vashkad, which is I think rim-wise. Let me. So Vashkad is in the Vashkad subsector of Vland.
Okay, so you're Villani. Okay.
Yeah.
And Randolph, where are you from?
Breslin. And it's in Duke Device region.
What kind of distance are we from the closest one?
We passed right by my planet on the way here when we first started.
We started this journey very close to mine. In fact, I went home and
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So Randolph is probably also
when we had the big party. That's when I sent a message home.
Right. So Randolph is likely also Villani. Yeah, you're probably also Villani. And Bocephus, you're Chokari, right?
That's correct. I believe I've got a home world on. My home world is Foland, Foelen.
Yeah, Folen.
Yep, it's in the Spinwood Marshes, Jewel.
Right, I'm just trying to. Let's see here.
Oh, that's so good.
Well, that's where I'm from.
Right.
That's the home world of my species.
Right. I'm just trying to determine. I don't. Oh wait. Oh, yeah. So okay, all three of you. So okay, so all three of you roll 2d plus your sanity modifier.
Oh boy.
Oh, fuck.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to roll one, okay? Because when I remember I lost my character sheet. Well, the only thing I wasn't able to recover is the optionals.
Right. So roll 2d.
There you go. 4.
I got a 7.
I got a 7.
Okay, so Sarda and Randolph. So Randolph, you're back in engineering, and you are trained to the point where you can kind of hear the regular shipboard noises of people over the sounds of the engines and things of that nature. And you hear everything suddenly go silent. And so you kind of step up towards the common area, and you can see these other scientists, and they are looking out the viewports on the side of the ship, like in absolute awe. One of the scientists, however, has ducked down and is hiding under one of the tables in your common area, and kind of in a fetal position, rocking back and forth. Sarda, on the bridge, you see the same behavior in Bocephus. And Bocephus, the reaction that Bocephus has is one of absolute sheer terror. He backs away, he ducks down, doesn't want to look out the viewports. He doesn't even want to look at sensor data involving these things.
All right. I will attempt something I've not done before, but I've got the capability to basically broadcast the emotion of calm to him.
Okay.
I don't remember what that. It seems like the difficulty's not super high on telepathy, but let me actually open the core rule book and.
So psionics. So yeah, this would be telepathy. Yeah, it's a routine 6+ check. Telepathy plus your psi modifier.
Sure. So I got a 12, which is pretty good.
Nice, that is pretty good. So it takes you roughly about almost a minute, not quite. And Bocephus kind of calms down and kind of comes back onto the bridge. Bocephus now has enough wherewithal to come back onto the bridge, and he can look he can look at the sensor logs and sensor data apprehensively, but you can tell he absolutely can't get over that line to where he can look out the windows at these things. And essentially what all of you are witnessing is that on your ship
I'm more worried about Jack. since he's flying the ship?
That's a good question. Shit.
It's when the pilot freaks out that you're really in trouble.
Oh yeah, Jack is fine.
Are we within 50,000 kilometers of one?
That's a really good question. Let's see here. Spacecraft range bands. Oh yeah, you're closer than that. You're within 10,000 kilometers.
Okay. Well, if we're within 10,000 kilometers, yeah, I still got to go to planetary. I want to do a life detection, which normally has a distant range psionically. This is page 229 of the rule book. But I can use more psi points and bump it up. And so if I use for the life detection is only one psi point. So if I spend 2 psi points, that's very distant. 4 psi points puts me at continental. And then if I use 8, right? 8 points puts me at planetary, which means I can detect life.
Yeah.
If I roll above a 4 with a telepathy check.
Yeah, go for it.
So that's what I want to do. And this is going to be my one fucking psionic banger, I guess. But I literally can't miss this, but I'll roll because
okay.
There you go.
Okay, so
sure don't want to read their surface thoughts.
Well,
no, I can't sell that roll.
Yeah, he probably. I mean, as terrified as he is, he probably wouldn't be able to. But here's what I will tell you, Bocephus. So, as to why you are terrified of them, you don't have an answer. You've never seen anything like this before. You do not have any rational or reasonable explanation for the feelings that you have, but your initial you immediately upon seeing these things, your fight or flight kicked in, and you wanted to get the F away from them. You okay?
Yeah, I just dropped a case on my ankle.
Oh. So yeah, you have no reasonable explanation. Now, what Sarda and Randolph are saying is that essentially throughout the ship, the general reaction to seeing these is that people are stunned. They're literally amazed at they're actually quite beautiful to look at, and the most of your scientists that you brought along, the rest of the crew, even Jack, like at one point, Sarda has to kind of tap Jack on the shoulder to do a course correction because Jack is like staring at these things in absolute wonder and has to be reminded to do his job. And so pretty much everything on the ship has come to a standstill. But there are 2 people, Bocephus and another scientist, that are absolutely terrified of these things.
So I go walk over to the guy under the table and ask if he's all right. Do I get a response?
Okay.
Is it a life form? That's
Actually, hold on. So telepathy.
Because that's what I just did and rolled on was detect life detection.
So actually, the guy under the table. So the feelings of calm and whatnot that Sarda sent out actually, of course, would have reached the guy in the common area too, because your ship ain't that big, and so he can come out, but he absolutely doesn't want to look out the window. So Randolph, what are you saying to this guy?
I'm just asking if he's all right.
He says, yeah, but we need to get away from those things.
And do you know why?
He looks at you and he kind of thinks for a second. He goes, I have absolutely no idea. It's just a gut feeling. They're not good. So Bocephus, your life detection, you are detecting that these are life forms,
and they're sentient or not. My life detection, if you read it, it's kind of really based on the mind of it. Life detection is reasonably sophisticated and can distinguish intelligent beings from bacteria or unimportant animals in the area. Folks best intelligent minds.
You're not.
These are something, yeah.
You're not. Yeah, that's really hard to describe. You are detecting that they are a life form. You are not detecting any sense of sentience that you would be familiar with.
Okay. I will share that information with the crew and go, look, man, this is a life form. We need to put some biological sciences on it with our scanning, but I think we should back the fuck up off. It's in its natural environment. It's very big.
Well, you have the same reaction that the guy in the common area had, is that you want to get the fuck away from him.
Hence, I'm trying to logically convince the people to let us fucking go. Let's get away from these things and go back to the ship. Danger, Will Robinson. And I'm telling you, these are a life form. We don't need to interfere with this life form.
You're making up excuses and shit. So, you sound like my dad when I wanted him to go on roller coasters with me. My dad was terrified of heights, but he didn't like to tell anybody about that.
This is a low type thing, maybe type of a huge space worm or something, and it's dangerous. I can sense it, and I'll cut my eyes at Sarda in a knowingly way and kind of wink.
So you kind of not being careful to not look out the viewports.
Fuck no.
You kind of grab Jack by the shoulder, and as you're saying this, and Jack is almost catatonic, just staring at these things, and you have to shake him again, and he goes, "Oh, right, sorry," and he, kind of he pulls away and increases distance. He gets you guys out to very distant range.
That's wonderful.
So you're within 50,000 kilometers now.
And they're not following us or reacting to us in any kind of way?
A couple of them do kind of come up and they don't touch the ship. They get near the ship and then kind of turn around and take off again. Another one you see kind of just lazily, they're not running around and darting back and forth like the other ones. They're just kind of lazily drifting along, and then all of a sudden they just completely disappear. And then a few minutes later they reappear out of nothing, and they kind of dart around and then go back to drifting. Very strange
feeling about that. That behavior makes me feel not good.
Yeah, we need to go. We need to go ahead and jump. Yeah, I'm gonna try to. Yeah, I don't know, man. Figure the fuck out later. Jack, we need to go. We need to go back to the Deepnight Revelation ASAP. Full speed. These things are nefarious.
So one of your life sciences guy,
Stimpy?
Yes. Hey, look at the big rolls on Stimpy. So Stimpy starts to basically he begins a research project, trying to research these things and figure out exactly what they are. And he does come back with a wealth of data. And it basically says that the pattern of scintillation, and he says, or in some cases the lack of a pattern, He estimates it's an estimate of their capabilities. He says that he believes that they're composed of some form of malleable protoplasmic material, and he says that it appears to span between the boundaries of energy and matter. He says their component parts seem to be an extreme and controllable form of wave energy duality, and they can basically choose whether or not to be photons or physical molecules. And he says that
I don't like these guys.
It's obvious that from watching them kind of darting in and out of these rings, that it's obvious that they can absorb energy, probably including cosmic background radiation. But it also seems that they can consume matter, and he would presume that that's how they feed, maybe. And he says that they can emit all manner of energy, but it's not clear how that's controlled. And he says what I can state definitively is that that they are not related to the other spaceborne organism that we discovered, which we've named the Leviathan.
This is not good news.
Okay.
The space whale.
Right. I mean, if it goes on energy waves, maybe we could try a non-offensive approach to try to communicate with it. Maybe a type beam communication wave, radio wave.
Sure.
Kind of at one. And I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter what we say. Maybe we should try to communicate with it by doing a series of beeps that do prime numbers.
Okay. Did you want to make a...
One of the traditional contact signals.
Right. So, do either of you have communications, electronics communications?
Oh, I have comms 1.
All right. You can make a comms plus intellect check. Or comms plus intellect or education. Your choice.
All right. Well, then this will give me a +2, which is at least something to try to, I'm not looking anything not to look out of the way and still, but I suck.
So
terribly.
You kind of do a...
I forgot the prime numbers.
So you
5.
You kind of do a
7,
tight
11,
beam pulse
13,
at these things, and
17.
they don't appear to return communication in any way. They just keep doing what they're doing. Like, it looks, the more that the rest of the crew looks at this, and probably not so much to Bocephus, because Bocephus still doesn't want to look at them.
Not looking. I'm shooting communication
right,
beams.
You're shooting some communications beams.
Right.
Yeah, the most that you can do now is look at the
staring
sensors.
at the panel.
But to Randolph and pretty much everybody else, it looks to you like they're playing. Like they're just out there having a good time, playing in the rings. If they know that you're there, they just don't seem to care.
That's wonderful. We should still give them a wide berth,
So, having discovered this, Stimpy starts to kind of continue his research, but he's not really getting very far.
Can I assist Stimpy by looking at his paperwork and all that and seeing if I can help him push his theories further?
Sure, you
with
can
some life sciences.
Yeah, go ahead and make a life sciences plus education check.
All right, this will be a fun one.
Okay.
There's an 11.
So you kind of look over Stimpy's work, and in addition to what he found out initially, so initially for Sarda, they found out that these things are basically they are living, but Bocephus wasn't able to detect any sentience that would be a type of sentience known to you guys. Like if there is sentience, it's so alien to him as to not matter.
And I randomly shot out communication beams in just random directions.
All over the place.
I apparently did not hit any of them.
Yeah.
I sucked at my communications role.
Yeah.
But I tried to shoot at them prime numbers, in a series of tight beam communication.
And so the other thing Stimpy determined is that they are some form of what was it? Some form of protoplasmic material, and that this protoplasmic material spans the boundaries between energy and matter, and evidently they exist in a dual state. They can choose whether to be photons or physical molecules at any given time, and that they absorb energy, but they can also evidently absorb matter, and he's presuming
they can eat us.
Well, he's presuming that that's how they feed. Big question mark. I mean, he's making he's making hypotheticals here, but that's what he's saying. They have come closer to the ship, but then they just kind of leave. And essentially, what you guys are witnessing is that if they do know that you're here, or if they even see you, they simply don't care. They're not interacting with you at all. And Randolph and Jack looking out the windows, their thought process on this is that they look like they're playing, like they're diving in and out of these rings, kind of like cats playing in a box.
Space cats. They're space plasma cats.
They're space plasma cats. So
my question is, can we tell if these things are all the way around the planet in the belt?
No. So you can't. So nobody can come to a consensus, but you do see that there are some big ones, and there are of the big ones. You see that Stimpy is saying there's somewhere between 3 and 5, in air quotes, adults. And then there are 7 to 12 smaller ones that he thinks maybe those are juveniles. But Bocephus, you kind of expound on Stimpy's initial scientific research, and your results are a little disappointing. You succeeded, but there's only so much that you can do with the information at hand. And so you are able to you get a little bit more data on their emission patterns, and you get basically you're able to work out some highly complex mathematical formulas that you think you can predict and model these things in a computer. And basically your conclusion is that the science available to you simply can't explain them.
But we can predict the direction and where they'll go somewhat, we think?
Possibly. More like you can make predictions and patterns and model them in a computer or do a holographic model of them, that you could basically try to study the model in the future.
That's good enough for me. We should go home and study it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a couple of times where he wanted to jump, and yeah, he's
I would have been. We could have jumped right now. We could jump back to the Dresnex. I mean, to the Deepnight. Just wait a week and process what we've seen.
My question is, if this, don't we need to find out if these things are all the way around the belt before we send people here to refuel the ship?
Yeah, now that I'm getting a closer look at them, is there a way to identify them on a scanner with something? In terms of
there is now. Now that
okay,
now that Stimpy and Bocephus have kind of gone over these things, and Bocephus has done some highly complicated math. Yeah, you can detect their emissions and track them on sensors.
Okay.
Yeah, me and Stimpy and I are working on a paper right now that we're gonna publish when we get back to the Deepnight.
Two of the scientists in the common area are basically turn around to Randolph, and they're like, "Hey, can we put on vac suits and go out on the hull and get a closer look at these things in person?"
Hell no. Not after last week. Do you want to get with 3,000 rads, mate?
I'm kind of like, sure. It doesn't matter.
Let's see what happens.
I mean, they haven't messed with the ship. I don't see it.
Last Friday.
But they haven't messed
out last Friday to see what
they
happens.
They haven't messed with the ship, so I don't see how being on the other side of 3 feet of metal is going to make a difference.
I mean, provided they use tethering protocols and take accurate records, we expect them to have papers on whatever they're studying.
So the one crewman that was initially hiding under the table, he's now calm enough to where he can sit down and just kind of shield his face and not look at the viewports. Now he hears these two guys ask Randolph this, and he's like, absolutely no. That's a terrible idea. We need to get away from here.
It's a good idea. Wise guy. There.
Yeah, Bocephus is like, listen to him. Listen to him. Why is nobody listening to us?
Yeah, we need to go.
I think we should go. How about you, Sarter? I think it's time to get back to the other ship.
Yeah, I mean, what readings do you guys think you're going to be able to get outside the ship that you can't get from within the ship?
They're like, oh, I'm sorry. We weren't looking to get readings. They're just so absolutely beautiful. We just wanted to get a closer look.
Well, I mean, if you want a closer look, I'll let you operate the sensors and get a close-in zoom in on the, you're going to get a better look on our cameras than you are in person.
They're like, yeah, but it's not the same as seeing it with your own eyes. I mean, even if there's some, a faceplate in front of you, it's still better than being inside the ship and looking out the viewports.
Yeah,
failure to follow commands will restrict you from coming on further operations.
I think we need to leave because the next thing it'll be that they can get an even better view if they take their helmets off.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. We're gone.
Yeah, so I think I think if they can't realize, I mean, it's like being at a football game. You can see way better at home on TV than you can in person.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
If they can't appreciate that here, there's something wrong.
The one that always gets me is, you hear people like, oh yeah, we're going to go to the races tonight, or we're going to go to a NASCAR event. I'm like, why?
You're gonna sit on a steel bench for 3 hours watching cars go in a circle and possibly get hit with a car part.
Well, there's that. I mean, and that's if you're lucky, because 90% of the time you're not seeing much of. I mean, you're seeing the cars and they look like they're this big because they're way on the other side of the track, and the likelihood that they're going to get a wreck right in front of your bleachers. I would roll those dice. I mean,
it's not like going to the demolition derby. Now that's worth going.
Yeah,
I'm very upset. The Fresno Fair is not having their demolition derby this year. That was the one that was prophesied in Car Wars. The 2023 Fresno demolition derby was where the very first person mounted a machine gun on their car.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
we used to have one every year at the Fresno Fair, and for the last 2 years we've not had one. They're not having one this year. They're breaking the prediction.
Yeah, they're trying to avoid the prophecy. God damn, I forgot about that. Oh man.
Yeah, I was upset. I haven't gone in years, but I was like, wait, 2023, this is the year. I got to find out if they're having a demolition derby, and they are not.
I was huge into Car Wars back in the day. I mean, we would sit there for hours. We wouldn't even play the game. We would just sit there for hours designing cars.
Sure.
I mean, oh my god, that game was so great. And then when we did play, we of course got into Auto Duel. And kind of did the whole role playing aspect to it too, and we would plan like cross country trips, and we had the atlases, and it was great.
I'd often get out of my car and just use a grenade launcher because it was really hard to hit a pedestrian, and those grenade launchers did quite a bit of damage. And then at the end of the fight, my car would be in pristine shape, and everybody else's car would be
just totally fucked up. Yeah, yeah. One of our favorites was the was it the Amarillo Auto Duel Arena, or
I couldn't tell you that.
Yeah. The big, I mean, that fold out map was huge. Take up the entire living room floor. Yeah, we had a good time with that.
All right, so look, we're gonna head back. These guys are acting erratically as far as I can tell.
Okay, so
I'm sitting there going, the sensors are better than that being outside. If you want to be outside, then that's weird. And the next thing I know, you're going to want to take your helmet off to better appreciate the view.
So you guys, so Jack, you have to kind of shake Jack and bring him back to the now, because he's staring at these things as well. And he's like, oh, right. And so he turns the ship around and heads you guys back to Revelation. As you guys are pulling into Revelation, you can see that there are a number of people that are tethered out on the hull of Revelation, staring at these things.
Everybody needs to get the fuck inside.
So
we need. I mean, really, that needs to be an order. People need to be herded up and brought inside.
So you get back and Jack docks this thing. There are a number of reports coming across Revelation of minor incidents. There are, of course, a number of people that reacted exactly the same as Bocephus did. They are absolutely terrified of these things. There are other reports of, like, somebody left something in the microwave too long, because, or a minor experiment in the labs was somehow destroyed because eyes weren't kept on it, because they were too busy staring out the windows at these things. Bocephus.
Thank goodness the yeast making my fermented cider, so don't look out the window.
Is there a way that we could bring the people inside and blacken the portholes so people will quit having access to look at these things? And then the people that we have that can seem to deal with them a little better, they can get the fuel and get us fueled up. But these things are a hazard, and we're risking a lot of lives.
So that's what the captain. So of course, you guys come back, and the captain looks over your reports, and the captain and the XO kind of look at Bocephus like, what was the problem? And of course, Bocephus doesn't have any kind of logical, rational answer. But the captain's.
We've got our paper.
The captain asks point blank, says, did they interact with the Destinex at all?
Yes and no. I believe they're because of their paper, and I'll use a bunch of mumbo jumbo to tell the captain that they're doing a sonic attack on the crew members, and we need to take precautions to shield ourselves from this. It's a visual assault as well as a mental, but if you break the visual line, it really will help everybody out.
So the captain says that actually I think is a good idea. So he recalls all of these idiots that are out walking on the hull, and brings everybody inside, and he shutters the windows. So, I mean, every ship has shutters that'll come down over the viewports. That's usually for jump space. But he just orders the shutters closed. So, no more visual access to these things. Then he asks Sarda and Randolph. He says, Did you notice that there was any direct interaction? Did they inhibit you in any way?
No, they did not, but they appeared to at least look our way because some of them came closer. But other than that,
He says, in your opinion, do you think that we can send out the refueling boats so that we can fuel up and get out of here?
I think that we may need to test crew members because crew members are reacting differently to them.
He says, boy, have we noticed that.
Some are terrified and some are enamored with them. And I think we need to find people who are more middle of the road, able to get the job done and not, panic and hide under a table or insist on climbing outside and communing with them. And so we may need to do some test runs of crew members.
So some of the social sciences in the crew have already begun their research on this because everybody's noticed this. And there's, like you said, there is really no middle of the road. Either people are absolutely in awe of these things or they're terrified of them. And so a couple of the social sciences realize this. And so they have started to look at the crew. And what they discovered was 4% of the people exposed either to direct sight or to recordings of them basically experienced an equivalent level of primal terror. Everyone else was in a sense of wonder. And it seems that the sense of wonder is almost more of a natural reaction because of nobody's ever seen anything like this before. And the report came back that the feelings of terror of the few Aslan crew members that are present and the one hiver that is aboard, they experienced no issue with them whatsoever. And
that's the refueling crew there.
And the other thing that they note is that Soleimani humans had no problem whatsoever. And it says the percentage of Imperial humans, Volani, the percentage that had the terror reaction was almost exactly 4%. And among the Vargur crew members, that actually was closer to 9%. And there are 2 droin aboard, and both of them, that was 100%. Both of them were absolutely terrified. And they said, now of course we because there's so few droin and Vargur aboard, maybe that was a coincidence that we don't have a large enough pool to really draw data from. But if Bocephus wants to look further into this, he could.
I mean, I'll look, but I don't want to look at them directly. Everything.
No, I mean, the data coming back from the crew.
Oh well, I definitely will look at the crew data and try to, it sounds like the Aslan and someone else is acting normal,
right?
And that these should be the people to captain and if able, just to do the refueling, and everybody else just needs to stay in and work on. We were going to work on a creative exercise of story writing, and everybody needs to write an epic tale.
So
make
a life science plus education check.
500 pages minimum.
Yes.
$11.
Oh.
So, okay. So your life science comes back. So Bocephus looks over this crew data, and it takes him a couple of hours, but he looks it over, and you realize that the feeling of terror is not psionically produced. It has no connection whatsoever to any psionic ability. and it doesn't seem to be conveyed by any of the same mechanisms that, for instance, like the telepathic triggers that were seen with the droid carvings on the pedestals that you've seen before. It's not like that at all. But what you do discover is that it's only present in species that have been touched by the ancients, and it is completely unknown in Soleimani humans. So species that were uplifted or that were transplanted by the ancients are all affected by by the terror, right?
Yeah.
And the droid, like I said, the droid, yeah, the droid, the 100 of the 2 aboard both went batshit.
What was the impact on our space wizard?
You know what? He thought that they were pretty to look at and interesting, but of all 500 crew members, he's the only one that seemed to be kind of wishy-washy, middle of the road.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the last check...
Seen it.
He's like, yeah, nothing big. The last check, the social sciences crew fails. If Bocephus wants to try one more, he can.
All right. I will try my social sciences. Let me look again. Life sciences, physical sciences, social sciences 1, and the intellect. So this will be a +2.
What's your education?
Oh, 11. So I'll get a +2 total, right?
Yep.
So 10.
Okay. So your third breakthrough, actually there is no third breakthrough. You fail that as well. So the most that you are able to determine is that the only people that are affected with the terror response are species that were directly interacted or had direct interaction in their past with the ancients.
Yeah, we just need to take a big dose of let the people unaffected get our fuel. We can't really leave without the fuel.
Right.
Okay.
Let's just get that go, and let's just try to shield everybody off from this shit as best we can. If they seem to be ignoring us and we can distance ourselves even more from them, then that seems like a wise decision.
Okay. So, yeah, over the next, you guys basically keep the shutters down on the viewports for the next 3 days. And the fueling crews and the sensor pinnaces, they complete their fueling actions. And again, these things move in and out. They move around the ships, but they don't interfere in any way. And like I said, if they do notice that the ships are there, they don't seem to care, and they just keep playing around in the rings. One of the scientists has taken to naming them and has named them the Alo'hei, which is a
angels in Hebrew.
I guess so. Yeah.
The Elohim or the.
Well, yeah. I want to kind of stipulate that Stimpy will have naming rights, as he had the breakthroughs.
Sure.
Of all that. If he wants to go ahead with that name, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if not, he technically has naming rights. To step on that is bad form.
Yeah. Well, we'll say that Stimpy's the one who came up with that name. And
that's fine. Yeah.
And he that you are allowing him to tag these with the name, he is extremely honored.
Yeah. He is the lead name on the paper that we did.
Okay, so yeah, they complete their their refueling operations, and they once again set off for jump. And we will pick this up next week. You guys will be in jump for probably another 4 weeks. Well, not in jump, but you'll make another 4 jumps, and you will be coming out in a new star system, the DDQ-23 system. DDQ, I keep thinking there's a Dairy Queen here, but the DDQ-23 star system, and a whole bunch
it's a mile and a half that way.
Whole bunch of interesting and harrowing things can happen in DDQ. It will all depend upon you. And we will pick this up next week with exactly that. Actually, let me put you guys back up in your...
Are we gonna start over? I mean, are we gonna begin talking about our little mental health project next week?
Probably a little bit, yeah, because we'll...
all right.
Yeah, because within the next 4 weeks... you will have made more progress with Chandra, and we'll see if Mayak is alive. If he's alive within the next 4 weeks, you'll probably have him up and walking about.
Oh, that's pretty nice. But, I mean, for the next several years... Yeah.
He's going to need physical therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Next several years, he's going to be... really trying to recover from this.
I think he's going to be trying to recover this from, like, if you mean by the next several years until the day he dies, then yes.
Oh, I mean, before he's actually able to walk and do normal. I mean, I got to think that before he's useful for shit will be at least a year.
Oh, more than likely. But I would think that, physical therapy in this in the future, the far future, as Traveler puts it, I would think that they would have something like exo braces and things of that manner that can help you, get up and move around and kind of assist those muscles, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, that's assuming that he makes his next check and actually is alive.
Either way, he probably won't return to my personal entourage crew or whatever. I'm thinking maybe I need to take Chandra and make her my assistant in the medical lab.
I'm sure you prefer most of your assistants to be the non-melted type.
Yes. Well, I've got plans for that, but I don't want to melt the poor boy.
Well, remember there, Mr. Porpoise, she doesn't want another child.
This is a perfect opportunity to start replacing his organs with non-radioactive ones.
Well, he said that just as a domino effect that won't ever really...
I think that ship's probably sailed for Mayak.
If I could tailor him some combat organs...
Because, I mean, it's not so much here or here that he got hit, but more like in here. I think that would be you'd replace one bad part with a good one, but then the other bad part that's next to it would then infect the good one, and it would just be a constant thing. And not that that would be impossible, but I mean...
By the time you place them all 3 or 4 times, it would be better.
Maybe. I mean...
But I don't see him if he's just growing the liver 3 or 4 times, and then the kidney, and then the pancreas, and then the...
Right. Yeah.
Well, there's one of the augmentations that is like combat organs or whatever.
Yeah, if you want to in the course of the next week, if you want to go through like both the core rulebook and the central supply cap, hell, if you can find something, I haven't gone through it yet. I bought the book and I still haven't read it. If you go through field catalog, there might be something in there. You use those 3 books, if you can find something that that sounds doable in a cybernetic capacity, I mean, he might come out looking more like Vader, but
don't care. I'm fine with that. He doesn't need to look good.
He's like a really dumb Anakin.
Yeah, but I'll do that.
Hates sand.
I'll come up with what I think. Maybe
somehow Mayak returned.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we will pick this up next week. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys each 1 XP point because you handled this very well, and Bocephus did excellent role playing with his terror and whatnot. So yeah, everybody gets 1 XP point for this.
Well, thanks. So I'm going to spend an XP point. I'm going to raise my hydroponics from 0 to 1.
So the funny thing is, when I went through this encounter, I was like, both times that I read through it, I'm like, this is really a nothing burger, and it doesn't really go anywhere, and at least as far as I can tell, not now. But then I had to keep in mind that if I present you guys with some unknowable thing, you guys are going to jump on it, and you're going to try to research every last bit of it, and you don't disappoint. And so I have learned from you guys that the most minor detail, rather than just throwing it away and skipping over it, I can use it because you guys are down for almost anything.
I'm going to bank the XP for now. I may raise. I don't have any idea right at the moment what I want to spend it on.
Yeah, you've got a week. You got a week, figure it out, and yeah, you can do that.
I might use it to raise something from 1 to 2. Yeah. I don't know yet.
Or if somebody wants to be a backup pilot, that would be a great plan.
Oh, that's true.
Well, I now have 1.
I have 0 in pilot.
I have 1 in space pilot.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well.
How's your dex?
Ha ha ha.
Well, I mean.
It's a 0.
All right, so the two of us are comparable pilots. I have a 0 in piloting and a 1 dex.
I mean, to be real honest, a 1 is probably the average skill level of most commercial airline pilots. I mean, that's just.
I mean, I assume a lot of commercial pilots are vets that have flown in the military.
Oh, you would be sorely disappointed. That's unfortunately not true.
I mean, the military only trains about 1,500 pilots a year.
Yeah.
How many do you think there are?
Well, I mean, the only commercial pilot I ever knew was a former Air America pilot, so that had gone commercial. So I guess that was a biased sample.
Yeah, one of my best friends is actually
count. That's not a military pilot.
Yeah, one of my best friends is a flight instructor, and boy, I hear some horror stories about his students. But he's brought up a lot of really good points. Is that if you on this scale, if you figure that a rank 4 is so good at your skill that you have people from across the sector coming to you for whatever it is, so that's the ultimate end of the spectrum. And then you have your average pilot, you're probably looking at about a 1. A really good above average pilot would be about a 2. So.
And even nowadays, most of the time on the commercial flights, it's the autopilot that's flying the plane.
That's true too. Yes, that's true.
I mean,
yeah.
Nowadays in America, they have a 500-foot difference between the east and west traffic lanes.
Yep.
And I've seen videos of the planes going by at 500 feet over each other.
Yep.
And I don't think as a human pilot wants to be doing that.
Right.
This augmentation of the soldier's organ package, on page 53
of
the Central Supply catalog.
Okay. Let me take a look.
I realized what I want to spend my XP on. I forgot that I'm not trained in leadership, and I wanted to put a point in that.
That's
good
good idea.
Dude. Yeah.
I knew in the past I'd realized I had that gap,
Yeah, if you wanted to throw this into him, you could do that. So it is a combination of both cybernetic and genetic alterations, which that sounds like it's right up your alley.
Yeah, I would be happy to do this on him, and I'll write a presentation that maybe Sarda might want me to do it to him at some point for fun.
And it also grants him a +2 to all endurance-based checks,
which really offsets his loss of endurance that he took.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, this will really and I mean, he'll 36 hours of wakefulness without a penalty. He just got to eat a little bit more. But I mean, him as a small craft pilot, that'll come in very handy.
That's true. Yeah, it's funny how much time and effort you're going into to try to help this poor idiot out. I mean, it's almost like a D&D, the party that decides to befriend and basically take under their wing the one kobold or goblin that they find. And they, oh, you're going to be our little buddy, as it continues to shit in their boots every time they camp and things like that. But
well, this guy would probably feel very indebted,
Undoubtedly, yes.
Yeah. And then right there on top of the soldier's package, I could just do a straight up physical augmentation. I could probably pull off that +2 to endurance on the physical augmentation right there on top of it all. And really, he could come out better than he went in.
Very possible.
We're going to do some medical checks, I bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll pick that up.
Can you give him dexterity of 12?
I could raise your dexterity by a couple. We'll talk about it next week. He's trying to wrap it up.
So I will tell you, Randolph, and we've had this conversation before in my Wednesday night game. So with the way the XP point system works, I'm using the XP point system out of the companion. Really, the only viable way to increase stats is through an augmentation.
I can get you +2, but you're going to have to come under the
He could set you up with a great package, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he did set me up with a +2 on my dex.
Oh, you already got a +2?
No, you already increased mine by 2.
Oh.
I went from 5 to 7, so.
Then the only other option I can come up with, just right off the bat, would be to, go in a more drastic approach. I mean, how would you feel about maybe a genetic microgravity adaptation?
Or just make me a cyborg.
Yeah, we could put on new arms and new legs that would give you better dex.
And new hands?
Well, I mean, like the combat arms, give you a real big strength. There's got to be something. The enhanced mobilities will make you faster. Make you move more.
I moved plenty, thanks to metformin.
I'm just scrolling through real quick. I'll see if I can come up with something to make you better by the book. If we've already used the actual augmentation of giving you a +2 once, then
it only cost you $6 million.
Yeah.
Then you know what the company did? They wanted me to pay it back. Do you know how much it takes to pay back $6 million on my wages?
Yeah, man.
Well, he was the colonel. He made a whole $50,000.
I can give you some muscular bridging that it's a painful recovery that'll last 1D weeks. But it'll get you a +1 on dex.
That's what slow drugs for.
And
right?
plus, it'll give you +1 strength, +1 dex, and add +3 meters to your movement. And it's only a 250,000 credits. So I mean that's probably not too crazy. Just would +1 dex help?
Well, I'd bring him to 8. No, because he would still be at +0. He would have to have a 9 or better in order to get 9 to 11 to get +1.
What are we can't stack these procedures, can we?
Let's see here. Where is the
I suppose it would be dependent on the exact procedure.
Yeah, the muscular bridging is on page 53 of the Central Supply catalog. And then the physical augmentation is right there on it as well.
Yeah, muscular bridging wouldn't really do it for him.
But if I did that and a genetic microgravity adaptation, I could.
Well, I was actually looking at. Hold on here. I know they're
if he needs 2 points, then one of them through the muscular bridging, and then right on top of that, do this genetic. It's on page 52. The genetic microgravity adaptation, and that'll give him another +1 on his dex.
That would at least get him to 9, so that would give him a +1.
He'll lose an endurance out of all that, but he'll get 2 on strength, 2 on dex. He'll lose 1 endurance, and he'll be able to move 3 meters faster.
So I'm sorry, Randolph. He gave you a dexterity augmentation for a +2. Is that right?
Yeah, way back in the beginning.
We stole those out of the bodies of the assassins.
Oh, that's right.
I got one as well.
I mean, with your full hospital, I mean, up to tech level 15. I mean, you are talking about something that would cost 5 million credits. You could do a +3, improve it to a +3, but that would still only bring him to 8. So,
well, that's why I'm saying that I can do that and the muscular bridging.
Yeah.
And that's very tempting to me because I've got a whole bunch of stats that are 1 off of a bonus.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can do all kinds of cool stuff, on that.
I have 3 8s, so all of those, just 1 point would make the difference, and an 11. So
on what? Strength, endurance, and
I have an 8 in endurance. I have an 8 in intellect, an 11 in education, and an 8 in social. So it's obviously you're not gonna be able to augment social, but
probably
that's
bullshit. You probably
the glamour package.
Yeah, there is a glamour package. Basically, it's just going to make you better looking. It makes him better looking, and all of a sudden he has the ability to be a smooth talker. And you said you had an 11 in education.
Yeah.
Okay. How about?
I don't know.
I could.
From day one, I originally my dex was only an 8 also, and so I had 0 bonuses on any stats. Every one of them, I had 4 stats that were 1, or 5 of my 6 stats were 1 away from a bonus.
I could get you a cognitive augmentation of +1, and that would give you +1 to your intellect. Right there.
My only dice roll modifier is social.
So, and of course, to create these augmentations, he would need to, of course, take some DNA samples from you, clone the items that are going to be needed, and
all that.
Craft it. So it's going to take some time to create these augments. But, once that's done.
That's all right. I'll still be playing Barton. I'll still be playing Brewmaster.
On Sarda, if I gave him a TL12 cognitive augmentation, which that's only 50,000. I mean, that's only 500,000 credits. It's not really, that's on page 58. And then I gave him a muscular bridging. That would give him a +1 on strength, dex, and intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, the only
I've already got the dex +2. The muscular bridging would affect that as well.
They're different procedures, so those stack.
Right.
Yeah.
The muscular bridging mechanically would make no difference. +1 to dex would give me an 11, which is no bigger bonus. +1 to strength gives me an 8, which is no bigger bonus. So I'm not too worried about the muscular bridging.
So you just want endurance then? Is that what you're saying?
Endurance would be nice because that would actually make even 1
that.
point in endurance would make a big difference.
I could do that with just the physical augmentation on the endurance.
So anyway, we can talk about this stuff later.
Yeah.
I mean, this is we're at that point now where we're kind of post finance economy for this type of stuff.
At this point, it's just a matter of taking the samples and creating it.
So I think you need to think about what you're willing to allow us to do in terms of augmentations and stuff like that, since we aren't we aren't in a position where we're shopping around with money that we've earned from looting stuff like the typical traveler game.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I invested in technologies to allow us to make and produce our own.
Right, and really, and this is my ruling on is that it initially is just going to take time to create the items, and literally you're talking probably 4 to 6 weeks to create the items that are going to be needed, and then the surgery and recovery time is what we're talking about. So
sure,
and you can do up to tech level 15. So
and Stimpy's help will speed that along. I mean,
I can get my fabulous package.
Yeah,
if that's what you'd like. Yeah, we can make you very fabulous. We'll give you the
fabulous augmentation
hair
treatment.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right.
That's really a funky use though. But yeah, y'all have a great night.
All right, you guys have a good night. Tomorrow. I will see you next week, and I will see Wes tomorrow for broadcast.
Right.
And have a good night, guys.
Take care.
No, thank you. It was really fun.
Have a good night.